This is the stuff dreams are made of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel, and you're listening to the original movie prop collecting podcast, brought to you by Propstore. Propstore is back, and they are having their big EMLA in LA, the MLA that we like to call it, the entertainment memorabilia auction. Day one is September 4th. It's September 4th, 5th, and 6th, and featuring some pretty incredible props, including the Darth Vader fighting saber from Empire and Jedi, and we're going to loop
Just
back
wild.
to that in a little bit, but pretty incredible. So go to propstore.com, order your catalog, or check it out online. That's propstore.com. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm good. I'm good. This is an exciting one. These are ones that our fans really respond to, and the work that was prepared for this was really thorough and incredible.
The deep dives. I think there was a period in there where we kind of went for a little while without having one. And I think we've been trying to do a concerted effort to do a new deep dive in each batch, because I do think it's fun, and I think the knowledge helps. I mean, I just think it's anytime you can put a little light in the darkness of prop collecting, I think it just helps. And we're going to be talking all about lightsabers, and if that stops one person from buying a bullshit lightsaber, boy, I'll be very happy. Maybe prevents somebody from putting a bullshit lightsaber into auction, because just a little too much of that. Yeah, probably not, but yeah.
But maybe more bullshit detecting will go on.
I was going to say, if it helps those fakers make better lightsabers, then we've done our job, as always. So
yes.
But we're going to get into the deep dive in a few moments. Ryan, anything new with you? What's new in props? Anything of that would be categorized in that world?
Yeah, it's been fairly quiet. I did want to shout out. I didn't get permission from him to actually credit him by name, but a good collector friend of ours has very much helped our screen matching abilities. He sort of prepped a drive for me a while ago that can take 4Ks that I already own and convert them into digital files, so that you can take them through this other piece of software that allows you to actually go through frame by frame in the digital 4K file on your computer, and then save screenshots. And the software is super powerful, so you can also do HDR separations, so you can see different layers and things you wouldn't do in the filmmaking process. But if you're trying to build up contrast to see a scratch, or to see how something stands off a background,
this is prop matching extraordinary.
Screen matching software, yeah. So my family's been away for a little bit, so I actually spent a bunch of time just converting a bunch of my 4K discs, the ones from the collection in this room, into digital files, so that I can start chasing down some screen matches. And you can also print out gorgeous, because 4K stills have such high image quality to them now. You can print out these really gorgeous still photos to kind of frame and put in with your collection. So it's really multi-use, but it's awesome, and it had kind of been sitting there, and I need a little. It is a little bit of doing to get it installed. You kind of have to go into the guts of your Mac to make it all happen, but it was really it's awesome, and I've just started playing with it, and it's not really a what's new in props, but I'm very excited.
No,
about
that is very
what's
much
new
a
in
what's
prop
new in props,
authentication.
Yeah. He did a drive for me as well, and I have not been able to figure it out, but luckily he is coming to America in the next couple of months, so I'm going to lure him over to
gonna make it happen
to my house and have him teach me as well. But no, that is a very good what's new in props, I actually think. So bravo. Yeah.
And you, even though this is a couple weeks after the fact, I think it's one of the first times we'll be talking about it. You just got back from Comic-Con.
I just came back from Comic-Con. Comic-Con is still technically going. It is Sunday, July 27th right now. Comic-Con is still going. This was actually the shortest time I ever spent at Comic-Con. This was on purpose, though. I went down Wednesday morning, as I often do. I went down with my good friend Jim Reed and met up with people and had lunch and did the whole show on Wednesday night. Had a lovely dinner. was at the show all day Thursday, had a great lunch with some people, had a great dinner Thursday night, and then basically woke up Friday and took off, and it was enough for me.
No regrets.
No regrets. We are very much, I think, at pre-pandemic crowd levels again with the show. It was really viciously crowded, especially at the front of the building and in the middle of the building, where all like, the toys and whatever. So boy, it was even just hard, even on, by the way, Wednesday and Thursday, which are usually the quieter days, just trying to do what I like to do, which is, like at least put eyes on every booth and walk the floor. It was really, really hard. It was really, really not fun with an art portfolio. And my art portfolio I had a piece that I was bringing to show someone that was a little bit bigger than normal. So I had a slightly bigger portfolio, which made it just that much more sort
unwieldy.
Of terrible. Yeah. But just everything where the seams start to show, just the Marriott where I stay, my God, were the elevators just in shitty condition. They're always somewhat problematic. And again, sorry to bitch and all, but it just felt like, again, the crowds were just bigger. And I think this is going to probably be my new MO, barring like something radically changing, where I think I'll stay through like Friday at noon. I think that is just perfect. And just so you know how crazy I am, I also have this sort of theory that if everybody sort of flies in on Wednesday and nobody's wearing a mask, that any COVID that they're kind of bringing into the building really starts to spread and hit by like Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So if you get out on Friday, you don't get COVID. Because by the way, I will, for those going, you're insane. I've had COVID twice in my life so far. And the first time was the Sunday of Comic-Con. I got it at Comic-Con. And the second time was the SNL 50th. And it's just, you're putting crowds together. It's a very uncontrollable thing. It is what it is. The
SNL COVID
fuck
was
you,
funnier,
anti-vaxxers. It was a little funnier because I got to stay in a hotel. But anyway, fuck you, anti-vaxxers and all that kind of stuff. But it was down there. It was not a great show. I will say it was not a great art show.
It
there was
seems
not a lot
very, like this year in particular, just the things that I was seeing, it seems very like trade show, like markety, like things being kind of pushed at you and jammed down your throat versus like celebrating the arts and little, artists being there and drawing
things. I'm a very
things.
simple man, which is just I want to see a piece of art I can buy. And I saw a lot of repeats this year, just things from last year and just things that have been on the various dealers' websites. I did find an older piece in a book, which I can put a picture up of. Albert Moy had a piece from a Legends of the Dark Might story by Kevin O'Neill, now deceased, rest in peace, who was a good friend, and it's a story I loved. And I found this piece that I think he's had for a little bit, but I was just like, oh, I can buy this, and seemed reasonable. But I guess in terms of the oh my God, wow, it was light from my perspective. It was light from my perspective on the oh my God, wow. Some nice previews, which I think I'll have already posted, of some upcoming stuff from the Guillermo auction, which is obviously Heritage, brought to you by Propstore. But you'll have seen those already on our feed on the at Props podcast feed. That will have already been posted by the time this is airing. So again, it was fun. It was great seeing everybody, which is the main reason for going. But I believe next year, Ryan, and you can kind of vaguely confirm this, we think next year you will be there, and hopefully in a perfect world, I know nothing is definite, but probably with something from House of the Dragon again.
Yeah. I've been really on them about that because we had a great experience there last year. It's not, none of this is confirmed, but I'm in their ear about it. Safe to say. And I think my plan is I will probably be there either way, just because.
Sure.
That's the show will be out. Well, that's a time that's like the every other year during the summer when I can kind of take a little bit of a break between. Delivering season and starting prep on the next season.
Done, but not the full pre-production yet. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I plan to be there anyway, but...
Oh, I was going to say, definitely, and this was wonderful, so thank you. A lot of people coming up to me, hey, love the show, is Ryan here? A lot of that kind of stuff and whatever. A couple of, can you please give this to Ryan, which I then had to carry around for the entire show. But anyway, the larger
Were there
point
any
being
lightsabers?
No lightsabers yet. I mean, I guess I could go back. I could drive down there right now and catch the final hour of the show if someone wants to give me a lightsaber for Ryan. But I think we'd like to try and maybe do a live recording, like basically do a panel and record it. Years ago, I was at the Austin Film Festival, and forgive me, I never remember the script notes or whatever it's called. It's Craig Mazin and what's his name's podcast. Yeah. They do
John
a live,
August and Craig Mazin.
Yeah, John August. They do a live recording that I was a part of. Like basically, they're on a stage, but they're recording it, and I think we'd like to try and do that. And so the question is, can somebody please tell us or help us? How do we put ourselves up for a panel? Like, how do we
get in there, book a room?
How do we make a panel happen that isn't Sunday at 6 p.m., preferably before Friday at noon, but we'll take what we can get.
Like a Thursday panel.
We'd like to not do it in our hotel room, but I think it would be really fun, and to basically be able to answer live questions. Maybe, if people want to bring stuff to show us, I don't know, we can figure out all sorts of things for it.
We can do on-the-air authentication.
Yes, exactly. Kind of like an Antiques Road show, and maybe some special guests as well, which would be very, very fun.
Yeah, so we're going to actually
if
start
anyone has any
working
knowledge,
toward that.
we're going to start trying to dig into it and how to figure it out. But if anyone has any inner track to how to get a panel or knows anybody, we would appreciate it. And reward you with some stuffed dreams are made of nonsense of some sort. Our coveted, very rare, insiders only #private deals T-shirt. But that
Which
doesn't really exist yet, but we'll make it for you. Yeah. Please let us know and help us, and email us at something. Where could they email us?
Dreams are made of podcast@gmail.com. But we have a jam-packed show tonight, so we should just get to it. We have a really special guest who's a returner to the podcast. The topic should be obvious from the title of the show. Big Star Wars lot coming up in auction. We felt it was good time as any to do another one of our deep dives. So let's bring him in right now. So speaking of lightsabers, they've been in the news a lot of recent, and will continue to be, I imagine, for the coming months. I believe
they'll be in the news right up till the day after the auction, and then no one's going to talk about them again. Yeah, there'll be a big headline, and then on to the next one. But yes, continue.
What's happening in December? So we've done a bunch of deep dives, but we've actually never done a deep dive on arguably the most studied class of movie prop, probably in collector history, which is the lightsaber, at least from the original trilogy of the lightsabers. So it felt like people love these deep dives. Felt like now is as good as time as any to do one of these, do it on the lightsaber, and we have probably the most knowledgeable person in the world on lightsabers here. To do it with it, which is Brandon Alinger from Propstore LA.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roger Christian. Oh, wait, sorry.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Brandon, how are you?
I am not Roger Christian.
Yeah. It's very good to have you, Brandon.
I'm not sure Roger Christian is Roger Christian anymore, but anyway.
What's the last one we did with you? Was it Indie Whips or Indie Hats? We did both, right?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I can't remember which we did first. Yeah,
I think when we did Whips, we knew a lot less. So I bet if you listen to the Whips one now, it's
I was thinking about we got to come back for another Whips because we got a lot of new information.
We got new stuff to say.
4Ks have helped a lot, and then just certain ones that have shown up and things. So there's a lot of new info there. So coming soon, coming next season.
Yes, it'd be a good one to revisit.
But there's a ton to cover in this, so we should really just kind of dive right in. It's what everybody wants to listen to. So we're going to go kind of movie by movie and go character by character within ech movie. So this is only original trilogy because those are the ones that everybody wants to hear about. Nobody cares about the prequels, with apologies to Brandon's background lightsaber.
There is a Phantom Menace lightsaber behind me, but we'll ignore that.
It's all fine. It's very cool.
We'll talk about that at the end. It's bonus content.
But these are super interesting because they were all...
by the way, I watched that documentary about the married couple that was like stealing paintings in the West, and they kept them behind their door, very similar to where you have the lightsaber, because they stole the stuff not for sale, not to make money, just so that when their door was closed, they could privately enjoy their favorite things in life. Is that you with the prequel
It's
saber?
a little bit like that.
The door closes and it's your favorite movie and your favorite saber.
I considered taking it down before this interview, but it's still
it's perfect. No. It's perfect. If we have time at the end, you'll have to tell a little story about that, because I asked in the wind up, the setup, and you told the story, which I thought was very cool. But the thing that's particularly cool and always has been very cool about the original trilogy lightsabers is the fact that they are all kit bash. So these are all essentially off-the-shelf components with very little custom, machining going on.
In the later movies, nobody was buying a lightsaber model kit and painting it. You know what I mean? And the way that kind of happened with some of the Star Wars models and things. So they always exist. And one of the most surprising things, I think, when we kind of started to dive into this whole thing with you, Brandon, is there aren't really as many as we thought. I think our initial, your brain goes to, well, 3 movies, 3 characters, I don't know, 3 to the 3rd power or some kind of crazy math thing, and it really isn't. Unless you count all the fakes. All the fakes and all the weird,
Luke was only in one scene in The Mandalorian, Dave, but they made 300 lightsabers for that one.
Yeah.
So
very, very different to today, right? I mean, look, who knows how many prequel lightsabers they made? I think, especially on the first Star Wars. I mean, we see this a lot. We, talked about the bowcast earlier this year, and it's like there's one, because they just, they either didn't have another, or they didn't think they would need another, or whatever. And
by the way, the budget. Let's just talk the budget, which is, again, I know they had gone to these sort of found items to save money, but even within that sort of world, it still cost money, so that a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, set this up. The core thing that you really see is this idea of the bladeless hilts, which are also known as the kind of belt hangers, which is basically just a handle, and then the bladed versions that they were actually fighting with, right? Because in order to go and have a duel scene, you've got to have some kind of stick. You couldn't just wave the handle around and kind of fake it, or it would never look right.
And just to throw this in, I think from the get-go, this is one of the key props they were trying to figure out. The sort of originally the laser sword and eventually the lightsaber is in every draft of the script. It pops up in the very early Ralph McQuarrie paintings, even with the stormtrooper holding it. So this was something they knew was kind of coming. And so it was a double challenge, which is obviously, as you say, to have the belt one, which is going to just look like a handle, and then obviously to figure out how the heck are we going to do this. So kind of an interesting mix of a little bit of props and early effects, which I think is just kind of an interesting background to it all.
Neither here nor there, but like, who coined lightsaber? Because Lucas still says laser sword, I feel like, now.
At some point it changes. It basically, in the drafts of the scripts, I think it's the 3rd draft or something, they introduced lightsaber. In the very earliest one, it's laser sword with a Z, L-A-Z-E-R.
Yes, with a Z, exactly.
So I do think Lucas came up with that term. And he basically, it's interesting. Recently I've been looking at some things and just reading his quotes, and he sort of says, like, I wanted swords, but I didn't want too many swords because I didn't want it to feel like a pirate movie. And he sort of talks about the lightsaber as the perfect defensive weapon in a world of ray guns and blasters and such. Yeah. The more noble knights would want a defensive weapon rather than a gun, right? So I mean, as with everything he came up with, like, there's a lot of thought behind it,
Yeah.
And then later on, they made the prequels, and all of that thought is just thrown into the garbage.
That's another episode. Dave.
But sand. So anyway, so should we just dive in? Do A New Hope. So first lightsaber we see on screen is famously your father wanted you to have this when you're old enough. Right. I mean, I guess we see the belt hanger, but you don't. If you're watching the movie for the first time with Vader coming into the tent of
A4, but you're not paying attention to it. So we'll come back to that. We'll come back to it. Yeah.
Right.
So
this is our introduction to what the lightsaber is.
Okay, this is Luke, played by Mark Hamill, if you're not familiar. And so, look, I think everybody knows this, but this lightsaber is made out of a Graflex flash attachment, right? So it's basically the thing that you put batteries in. You mounted a flash bulb in the top of it, which here the top would be at the bottom. Do you guys see my mouse cursor?
Yep.
You do, right? Yep, good. And there'd be a big silver reflector down here, 1940s, 1950s press camera with a big old flash on it. So, they did a lot of this in Star Wars where they found real world parts, military parts, aircraft parts, etc. And in doing so, they capitalized on a lot of pre-existing design, right? Like somebody designed this whole flash 50, 70, however many years ago. And they just customized it a little bit, made it a little bit different to suit their purposes. So with this one, they basically add a D-ring at the back of it so they can hang it on the belt. They add these black plastic grips, which they call them T-tracks. They're like the runners that cabinets would slide on.
Right. Very Star Wars. Those plastic, the T-tracks are on a lot of things.
On the Stormtrooper blasters. Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when people were convinced those were old windshield wipers that had been cut up. Because everybody was always trying to figure out what that was.
Oh, that was an early
early
theory.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then here in the center, this is what they call the clamp. This is essentially how the thing latches onto the body of the big press camera. And they just filled this little clamp with this bubble strip, which is out of a 1970s calculator. The idea is there's little tiny, I think they're LED displays behind this, and these bubbles magnify them just to make it larger.
Yeah. I think that would be LCD, right? Because I don't think LED existed at the time. I think liquid crystal was the.
Okay, LCD. Yeah, maybe there was some early version of LED, but anyway, you're probably right. LCD.
Which is the band?
Yeah, LCD sound system. Is that where you're going?
Or ELO. Anyway, continue.
Yes,
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Electric Light Orchestra. Anyway, go on.
So this is Luke's, and I think the common theory is that there was one of these, only one, and that it disappears after the first movie. I think we do not believe. Can you just
zoom in on that, Brandon, just to make it? There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
We don't think that the same sort of Luke lightsaber props that you see in The Empire Strikes Back, which are also made out of Graflex handles, we don't think they're exactly the same as this Graflex. So for whatever reason, this Graflex disappears at the end of the first movie, has not been seen again since.
And we should point out at the time, the Graflex was a relatively, the story goes, Roger Christian walked into a camera shop, and much like with the airplane stuff and whatever, there was just a box and he was able to buy, a bunch of them. So relatively easy to replace in the grand scheme of things, wherever that fits in.
And Brandon, we've seen multiple different photos of this same one. I'm seeing a lot of like wear and things on there. If this walked into your office one day, you would be able to match this in theory, right? If this thing did exist.
Yeah. I think, there are some specific tells on it that I think you don't see in your average Graflex. So I think maybe. And, the other interesting thing is just, was it definitely only one? And I think, to the best of people's knowledge, most likely, but, sometimes we just don't have enough information to know. And sometimes, information surfaces later that challenges the current thinking, and you have to revise things and you go, oh, we thought it was one before, but now that a new version's shown up, we've taken another look at the film. We could see the differences. There were actually two. With this, we know there was another production made one, which had very credible lineage, which we sold at Propstore a number of years ago. It's owned by a well-known Star Wars collector now. It was a first film production made Graflex. As far as we could tell, no film use, but it was absolutely genuine from that time in 1976. So it's not like we think they only ever had one of these flashes. It's just how many did they fully convert, fully use for filming. I think common assumption is one on this one, but there's some room for error there. It's hard to be 100% with it.
And there was,
but I was going to say go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was just going to say with Luke, with the training remote, there was a hilt, some kind of metal hilt with a rod in it, right? For the training remote sequence.
Yeah. So, we can jump to that as the next one. That would basically be the bladed version of the Luke A New Hope lightsaber, which, if we talk about that for a minute, what they tried to do, again, this is somewhat common knowledge, but we'll go through it quickly. They tried to basically take a blade, coat it in a material called Scotch Light, which is like a highly reflective thing that they put on stop signs, put a motor in it so that it would spin just to flicker and give it a little bit of life. Shoot it through a mirror with very bright lights so that it would reflect the light back with great intensity. I think they were going to do some stuff with color gels to try to change the color a little bit. And they were trying to get the lightsaber blade as an in-camera effect. And I think there's even test footage out there where you can see that. But, essentially it wasn't satisfactory. It didn't do everything they wanted it to do. And they wound up coming back and putting in an animated rotoscope glow over the spinning blade. But in the first movie, each character, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Darth, they all have these effects lightsabers, which I would think are made by the special effects department rather than the props department. And they have motors in them to spin them. So this is not a real Graflex flash like that other one that we looked at. It's basically a piece of pipe that's been cut and modified to look like a Graflex flash. They put the center clamp on it. You can see here it says Graflex on it. They mounted the button at the back, this little glass lens at the front. This is probably a little screw that's holding in part of the mechanism.
Right, that's probably keeping the rod or the rod motor in there, basically, right?
Yeah. And I mean, here you can literally see the power wire going up Mark Hamill's sleeve and the little connector here to tie it in. And, Hamill talks about the fact that when they were doing this, they wore battery belts, not unlike, camera operator running a movie camera in the 1970s. So, this was a real special effect thing, just trying to figure out a way to do this in camera. You can kind of tell looking at it here that it's not a real Graflex flash. It's something the special effects department made. And this is basically the bladed version of the Luke lightsaber for the first movie.
Yeah. And there's Alec Guinness regretting everything that led him to be in this movie right there. You can see it in his eyes.
He's happy. Come on. He's happy. And so another little interesting fact on this one is they also had to use it in the Darth Vader Obi-Wan duel. For whatever reason, Darth Vader starts with his own lightsaber that was made for him. We're talking about the spinning bladed version.
Yes.
And then presumably that failed at some point. And so they took the Luke one, painted the very top of it black, and pressed that into service for Luke.
Wild. Okay. Now, is Luke's fighting one out there? Is that an archive piece? Do we know where that is?
So that's interesting. So there's one in the archives, which Dave and I have seen. We actually kind of found it one day there at the archives.
Yeah, I should point out for those listening that Brandon and I have been to the archives numerous times.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And so is Ryan.
Thank you. Everybody take a drink. It's that time.
So these pictures, these are not our pictures. We can't share our pictures. These are pictures that I just found online. So this is out there in some video. But this is one that we found in there, which is a very simple version that sometimes gets referred to as the pipe stunt because it's like a cut down piece of pipe. And it's possible that this is that Luke spinning motor one from the very first movie. I don't know if there's enough information to be 100% on that, but there's a lot of similarities in the way the thing is cut at the top. There are little, you can't really see them in these photos, but there are little scratches, kind of evidence in a round circle shape where the little glass eye and the button would have been, which sort of seems like they were just super glued on or something, but it would make sense that they would super glue them if they, couldn't disturb the internal mechanics because they had a motor in there. And
they couldn't drill them in or whatnot. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can't see the clamp because the clamp is all wrapped up in gaffer's tape. We know that's something they did as they went through the movies because I'm sure these things were very uncomfortable to hold.
Wait, go back to that shot. Okay. That's me in the archives. There I am.
Yeah, that's Dave in the stormtrooper suit, and this gentleman holding the lightsaber.
That's our co-author Wade LaJose. Anyway.
So this may be the Luke from the first movie. To me, it makes a lot of sense that it would be just because they were constantly reusing things rather than making new versions. And there's an awful lot of similarities. There's things like these big black Allen bolts up at the top of it, which are holding in this kind of cylinder of solid aluminum that gives it the structure. When you look at the pictures of Mark Hamill, let me see if I can just show you. So down here, you see this tiny little screw here, which is probably holding in the motor or some part of the mechanism. And today you've got this like big black headed Allen bolt in the same place. It's not exactly the same, but it's like, okay, they probably drilled that out at some point, made it larger and put this in. So again, I don't know that there's like a smoking gun to be 1000% that this is it, but it seems likely this at least could be it.
It's funny because I would presume because Empire had more money and that the Empire fighting one would just be fancier than this. Like I can believe this as a New Hope, sort of they were making essentially an independent science fiction film. I can believe that as the prop, but I would figure with Empire they would get a real Graflex and just sink a rod into it.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, that is what happened. But I think part of that too is they dropped this whole idea of a spinning blade.
Right. They realized the spinning thing didn't work. And so then what happens to, I guess, those spinning ones, I guess, down the line? And they didn't have, and each character basically had one spinning one also. We should sort of clarify that as well, basically.
Yeah, I mean, to the best of our knowledge.
Right,
I guess
again, to the best. Right, again, it's all possible, but it seems like, and I was going to say this about Luke's saber as well, especially with the 4K and pictures, behind the scene photos and whatnot, when you can get a good look at the lightsaber, the reason we're thinking it's one is you're basically the same one is showing up over and over and over again when you are getting a good look at it, which doesn't mean it is possible there's another one, but most likely that there is only one. And that's kind of how we sort of try and do these things, which is you're not 100% sure, but as you look at more and more screen grabs and photos, you do start to feel pretty darn sure. I realize that's not a full-on estimate, but pretty darn sure is pretty good. Yeah.
The case here would just very simply be it's a stunt, and they were really bashing those things together, and things break, things go out of service, motor stops working. They want to keep the filming going. I'm sure they shot that fight over essentially the same day. Maybe somebody's doing this, on the side, moving one in and out as they put the other into service. That would be the only case for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always possible that they had two Luke spinning ones, and it's like the one that we're seeing in the photos is different and it's just lost for whatever reason, and this is a second version, a backup. For example, if that was to surface a year from now and you could go, oh, look, every bit of it photo matches, it's this exact one, then you'd go, oh, well, the one we knew about before must have been the number two.
Must have been some sort of a backup, right?
Yeah. So it's always possible. But I guess, to the best of, I would say the most logical explanation right now is that this is it. If that makes sense.
Great.
So so that's Luke, I think.
Okay.
Covered.
And there were I know stunts were made later. When we say stunts, I mean like cast versions, sort of, resin painted versions were made for later films, but there were no resin lightsabers in A New Hope. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, again, not that anybody's ever seen, not there's any evidence of, no pictures, nothing in the movie, nothing in the Lucas archive, nothing that suggests that. So I would say no. I mean, I think you basically got these bladeless hilts, which were probably done by the props team, and it was Roger Christian. I mean, he was a key guy. Roger Christian being the set decorator being, above the hierarchy of the props department on the tree.
Right.
This was a key prop. Yeah, he had a lot to do with it, I think. I'm sure there were people from the props team who were very hands-on with it as well. They put together those sort of hilt versions first, and then the special effects team came behind them, and it was, okay, how do we make something that has this spinning blade?
They copied the hilt and added the spinning blade, basically.
Exactly.
Copied the design,
Yeah. So if we jump up to the Obi-Wan saber, I mean, this for me is really the most interesting build, because the other ones really just look like the flashes with a couple of things added on them.
Yeah.
With this, they took completely different parts. And I mean, how somebody had the, imaginative thought to go in and assemble this and figure out that all these things are the same diameter. It's just crazy, because you basically got this section here is part of like a fragmentation grenade, like a grenade that would be shot out of a rifle.
By the way, that is my absolute favorite. That's my favorite part, because that just, take your Graflex flash. This is a grenade,
Hopefully it's inert, deactivated, hopefully. And then down here you've got this part is out of an engine. Right.
Yeah, a Rolls Royce. Right. It's a valve, right, out of a Rolls Royce plane engine, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like aircraft engine, and that's for the replicators. That piece is the hardest one to find, right? That's the rarest piece.
I think that and this part down here, which is off of a machine gun, it's called the booster off of some machine gun, I think is a very difficult thing to find as well.
So do you think when they were making this, they were like, we are gonna fuck the RPF big time.
Yeah, screw those guys.
Well, for years, people thought this was a motorcycle grip, and it was like, which motorcycle handle has that come off of? And then this is obviously the clamp off of a Graflex, same as Luke's A New Hope. And this is what you turn your hot and cold water off and on in the UK. Ryan probably has several of these in his house.
Just a classic sink. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't have running water here, actually, Brandon. It's, we go to the well in the afternoon.
Yeah. But they have air conditioning.
They don't have hot and cold. They just have tepid. What's one faucet with a T on it?
They say tepid.
Tepid.
So this one, and this is lost, right? And there's no photos of this after the first movie. It never shows up again. It's not in Empire or Jedi. It hasn't been seen since, to the best of everybody's knowledge. Maybe it's out there somewhere. Maybe it's sitting in a box right next to the Luke that we also think is lost. But no one's seen this. And again, just kind of to the best of our knowledge, there was one. To me, it makes sense there was one because these are all so different. The components, like the idea that you would be able to come up with two of each one of these, just seems very unlikely.
This has always been the strangest. Yeah, this has always been the strangest one to me. Of like, because there were always these stories like the Han Solo blaster it was a gun, so it got broken down again, sent back to the armor. All that stuff makes sense. People are like, oh, well, the same thing happened with the Obi-Wan saber. It's like all this stuff these were parts out of a parts box. Nobody broke this down to like reuse it in a future film. I believe that it's possible that it got lost. This is 50 years ago. A lot of things happened in those 50 years. It's just strange that there's no record of it. There's literally not one photo of it after 1976. Like it does not exist after that. And I've always found that to be strange. And I've always wondered if Guinness took it home, just because
I heard a rumor, and I don't want people acting on this, that he's buried with it. So I mean, no one should do anything.
Stop it. I think if he had it, it would have come out, And I also think just everything
the
when
you read about hair of prop collectors, Dave, it's coming.
His attitude around Star Wars, I just don't think he would have cared enough to hang on to something like this.
I feel like even if he had taken it at the time, at some point in his level of, I don't know, a little bit of anger and whatever, it just feels like he would have
gave it away or
auctioned it off, given it away or something. Yeah, and we would have heard about it. And yeah.
But also the fact that both this has never showed up and the Luke has never showed up, to me, it feels like they're together. And, the ones that they still had when they started Empire are basically the special effects ones. So I would think it's like the special effects department held on to their lightsabers, and that stuff would have been stored with R2-D2 and all the droids and all those types of things that they made. And when they started Empire, they still had it. And for whatever reason, they went to the props department and this stuff was gone. It had either been thrown away because nobody thought they were coming back to do more, or someone kept it, someone had it, maybe still has it. I mean, it's an interesting mystery. Look, it could show up one day. I mean, it's who knows, It would.
I mean, at the rate we're going, it'll probably show up next week. But anyway, yeah.
I mean, it'll be a happy day if it does. We'll see.
Yeah. Certainly after September. What's the first day of the auction, Brandon? September 4th.
September 4th.
Certainly 4th. After September 4th.
Yeah, September 5th. It'll be like ring. Yeah. Oh, I heard these are selling for a little bit. Can I drop it off? Yeah.
Call us on September 5th, please. Yes, call Propstore. So this is then Alec Guinness with the fighting version, the special effects bladed version with the spinning motor in it. And it's basically...
gosh, I never realized you could see the wire going up his sleeve, too. I've seen this picture
before. In the little
before.
Toggle switch.
Yes,
the little red toggle switch.
I never noticed that. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And so this is a machined copy. They started with some solid aluminum, turned it on a lathe to basically look like the other one. But, of course, it's not exact. I mean, the grips, for example...
good.
I mean, it's good, but it's, I guess things like... these cross cuts in the grip, right? Where it's going this way. You don't see that. These are just solid rings.
They're just solid rings. Yeah.
And this part is just a black sort of painted surface. It doesn't have those grooves in it.
Unfortunately, by the way, no one was willing to drill into a fragmentation grenade on the set. That's where they.
But by the way, it also makes a certain amount of sense because George was very concerned with them using two hands for it, that it had heft. That's sort of documented, that he wanted the two-hand thing as if there was weight and whatnot.
Despite this photo.
Right, well, that's sort of in between takes. But
here you go. Two hands.
But so when they were sort of, and again, I don't know chicken and the egg, when they were sort of making this, if he had already explained that, but it did not need to be an exact perfect copy because obviously it's blocked a lot of the time. So you don't necessarily know if the ridges aren't exactly the same because a lot of that's going to be covered up by the hands. Anyway, wherever that.
Yeah. No, that's right. And, again, if you're a lightsaber fan, this is somewhat common knowledge, but I mean, this one was then later reused in Return of the Jedi, which maybe we talk about more when we get to Jedi, as Luke's lightsaber.
Yes.
And just a couple of things. I mean, here's a photo of it today or recently, and it's not exactly the same angle, but you can kind of see this longer lever that's coming off the Graflex clamp, which is not native to it. That's something they found and rigged up in some way. It must have been missing its original lever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the big tells that these are the same. And then when you really go in on this, you can see underneath this clamp, there's like a box that sits in this channel on this side of it. And you can see over here, the box is missing. It's just, I think they call it the sidebar.
Okay.
And it's the same thing here. It's basically this sidebar is missing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this, you can see, is secured with this little rectangular nut, which again, like that's just a piece of hardware. That's not something that is native to the Graflex clamp. And then when you go in on the 4K and you look at it, you can see that exact same
there it is
rectangular nut in there.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's how we know it's the exact same one.
That is amazing.
And I guess if we want to talk about the sort of private collection side of it, I mean, again, I think people know this, but that one I'm fortunate enough to have in my collection. That is one of the handful that's out there that exists in private hands today. Yeah. I think there is 5, now 6 that are sort of genuinely confirmed with film use that exist in private collections, as opposed to being either lost or in the Lucas archive.
Right. And one of those 6 is the new one that you guys have, which
we'll get to in a second.
We'll get to. Yeah.
I was just going to say we can stick a photo up here, or maybe even a clip of Mark Hamill's old collecting show, where you actually went on the show and pulled it out and shared it with Hamill, which was really cool. Just seeing him, what can I say? Hold it. I don't know what else to. Yeah.
To reunite him with it. And, he was the one who, in that show, he talked about the battery belts, which I had never heard before that. So it was really neat to just, put it in his hand and have him instantly recollect the first attempts at doing this as a practical in-camera effect. And so another one that is related.
Okay. And Brandon, sorry, I'm not trying to put you on any kind of a spot. Should we assume that you got it from someone who worked on the film, basically, and leave it at that?
I did, yeah. I mean, look,
Oh, no, please, yeah.
No. I mean, look, when I got started, I spent a lot of time just trying to connect with people who worked on these films, and I made many, many phone calls and sent many letters, and I put ads in newspapers trying to find people and connect with people. And this was somebody who worked on the movies, and I got in touch with them and went to their house and, had a nice chat for an hour about the films, everything to do with it. And then, this was literally presented and put in my hands, and my jaw fell on the floor, Yeah. And this is almost 20 years ago now. So the knowledge base then was kind of less. I mean, I recognized it right away as a Luke Return of the Jedi lightsaber. I don't know if I fully put together in that moment that it was also
that it was Obi-Wan's until later on. You kind of
that's right.
Interesting.
And even until I did the deal, had it in my hands, owned it. It wasn't until I actually took the bottom part, this pommel down here, off of it, which is basically unscrewing an Allen bolt and pulling it out. And I looked in there, and there's basically a chamber with some threaded holes, tapped holes, where the motor mounted and was screwed in. The motor's gone, right? It was taken off at some point in the later film. But when you saw that chamber and those tapped holes, it was like, okay, yeah, unquestionably there was a motor in here. It is that one. But, until I got to that point in the research process of being able to literally pull the thing apart, it was like, maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, it's maybe somebody's got something wrong in the research.
Goddamn super cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so a related lightsaber to this one, and by the way, a lot of these have sort of names that are commonly understood in the world of RPF and people who replicate them and things. A lot of the names don't necessarily make the most sense. It's not like somebody sat down and wrote out a chart of names and said, this is what it should be. They just kind of kept in and
named them as they went along, right?
Exactly.
And,
right.
Yeah.
So this is commonly referred to as the V2. I'm not even sure that I know exactly what that's supposed to mean, other than maybe the second version of Luke's lightsaber.
It's the second version of Luke's, like, because it was first identified, because it's when we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it was first identified as the one that the Emperor has on the throne, which everybody could see was different than the one that he catches when he's on the barge, because there's like clear,
the one he catches is the same one. It's the V2, but I think there's the close up in Vader's hands where Vader says, "I see you've constructed a new lightsaber."
Yes, okay.
I remember
that's
V1.
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess, but again, it's sort of,
and that's also the one you see in the deleted scene of him building in the cave.
Yes,
it's that it's that one with the gold, sort of the gold band around the top of the neck, which yours does not have, right?
I know, but in my replica prop group, we call it the Brandon. But anyway, go on.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what they called it when they were shooting Star Wars in 1976. So, okay, so if there's the V2, then this one has the name V3, which again, rightly or wrongly, just that's what people refer to it as. And the common thought here is this is the first attempt at doing a spinning Obi-Wan lightsaber for Star Wars: A New Hope. And it's a little bit cruder. So the V2, the one that was used for Alec Guinness, is really kind of clean and pretty. It's very well machined. On this one, you see this big heavy seam line running down it. It's not as pristine. And this started as a turn piece of wood, which we sold at Propstore at some point. Again, it's out there with a big Star Wars collector. That came from a guy who worked for John Steers on Star Wars 1976. He had kept it. He also had one of the unused castings from the time. So this here is a raw aluminum casting that was made off of that wooden pattern.
That's cool.
So this is sort of an unused V3, if you like, that's cast aluminum. This doesn't seem to have ever been used in the filming of the first movie, but it was used just for general sort of practice and training and rehearsals on Empire. And then most prominently, it's used as Luke's bladed saber in Return of the Jedi. So in Jedi, this is the one with a blade on it. Doesn't spin. It's just mounted static. And that's what he's fighting Vader with. And this one's still in the Lucas archives. These pictures, I think, from one of the celebration shows or something. This has probably been restored a little bit over the years. At some point, they did a big restoration on a lot of key stuff in the Lucas archives circa 1990s. My guess is it was repainted at that time. I don't know that this little circuit board and the clamp is original. That may have gone missing. But overall, made for the first movie, used for rehearsals throughout, and then primarily used as the Luke bladed saber in Jedi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's also...
I was going to say, so because it was made for the spinning blade, it had the ability to take a blade even when it didn't need to spin, basically. It's got the
hole. I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, hard to know exactly what's going on in here or how that works, but presumably this is like a rod, a steel rod that runs through the whole thing, which probably gets locked into it with some little Allen screws that mount out here. You can't really see it in this picture, but that would be how that locks in, and then somewhere it locks into the bottom down here. And it may be that when they had the long blade on it for fighting, that steel rod came out of it another 4 inches or something. In fact, I think definitely for Jedi it was, because there's a picture where we can see it, the steel rod comes out. That's how they mount the blade. Maybe during the restoration they cut it off short
to make it look more like a regular lightsaber hilt.
Yeah. And so here, this is a good picture. This is Empire, right? Mark's wearing the Empire boots, the lower half of the Bespin fatigues. David Prowse, Mark Hamill, obviously. And this, I think, is this one. I think it's the V3, but obviously they had both the quote-unquote V3 and the quote-unquote V2, and they were just using these for rehearsals, training. I mean, they spend a lot of time getting ready for that lightsaber sequence in Empire. Mark Hamill talks about training for it for weeks and weeks, and just the intensity of it, how they were trying to really elevate it as a different kind of fight compared to the slower, stiffer fight that Alec Guinness and David Prowse had in that first movie. And this is that quote unquote pipe saber, or the spinning blade one from the first movie. You can see the little button there to turn the motor on and off. And you can kind of tell it's not really a Graflex. It just has this red button popped on it. So throughout Empire and Jedi, they really just had like a basket of lightsaber props with blades. And during filming, the continuity is pretty good, not perfect. But in rehearsals, you'll see them sort of swapping lightsabers around all the time. It's just whatever they had and could grab, they're holding it. So you'll see, Bob Anderson, the Vader costume, holding one of these, which isn't even in that movie, in Empire. Or you'll see, Mark Hamill holding a Darth Vader. So it's just they weren't worried about it when they were training, essentially.
And sorry if you said this in your rundown, Brandon, but this one that Mark Hamill's holding in this, that is a Empire made one, or is there a possibility that's that one from the first film?
No, he's saying that's the pipe
we think
one.
It is.
We think, yeah.
It is.
Right.
It is the pipe.
The spinning motor Luke from the first movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With maybe a little, they modified the T-track and the clamp, maybe, because doesn't that look a little more detailed, or is that?
Well,
it goes back to the
the
first photo. It just doesn't have the gaffer's tape on it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. The gaffer's tape would have come later. Yeah.
Yeah, because bubbles are A New Hope, and then computer circuit board, right? Is Empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So should we do Vader?
So let's jump back to Vader, I think, just to clear A New Hope off the decks, I believe.
Yeah. So Vader, this is a good photo, good page out of the Star Wars Chronicles book. And this one's interesting because this one, there's some good evidence for the fact that there may have been two of the hilts specifically for Vader. And the key difference is this one, these are the best photos that exist of it, has got these silver or chrome sidebars. And there's another one where these are black. And there's some other differences about the black sidebar version as well. But this is kind of the best existing photos of it. This is made out of a camera flash, just like the Luke Graflex. It's called an MPP micro flash, made in England in the 1950s. Just like Luke's, they've added these plastic T-track grips at the bottom, and they put some calculator bubbles in here, and they've added the D-ring, right? They put the D-ring on the top for this one.
And that's the belt hanger.
The belt hanger. Yeah.
Okay.
And so here's a good photo. This is a great photo, actually, of Vader's entrance to the film. This is the first time we ever see a lightsaber on screen. He makes the wonderful entrance to the Rebel blockade runner, and you can see it hung very prominently there on his belt. You can see it's the silver sidebar version, exactly what we're seeing in those photos from the Star Wars Chronicles book.
Do you see the black side version in any photos? Do you see the black one?
You do, yeah. So I think predominantly in this scene where they're sort of all around the Death Star conference table, it's maybe a little hard to tell in this photo, but that's the black sidebar version. And then here's an image from a black and white still where we can see it better.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yep.
Couple interesting things going on. It's the black sidebars, and there's one or two other pictures as well, which I don't have currently. But if we just look at this one, the grips are longer. The grips come all the way up and kind of butt up to the bottom of the clamp. And then this is basically that calculator bubble thing with the plastic bubbles having fallen off. These are just those LCD, not the band, liquid crystal display, displays.
The part that's underneath.
Yeah. Right. It's basically the electronic computer board, PC board, printed circuit board, I think, below the bubbles. So I guess just, thinking about the way props work and everything, I do think there's a possibility that it's the same prop that was reworked during production, but there's enough differences that you could say, well, maybe they had two of this one. And then if you give credibility to that, then maybe you would jump to, maybe they had two of the Lukes, but we don't know. I guess this is the one where there's the most photographic evidence.
Most question.
There were two
of
separate
a differential.
hilts.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then the spinning blade version of that looks like this. And for me, this is really recognizable because of this big square shroud at the top of it, which I always remember from the photo on the Kenner action figure card back. You see it really, really well on that thing. And, a couple different photos here, but we showed earlier that at some point they stopped using this, right? And they went to the Luke one, where they just painted the top black. But here they had put this square shroud on it. You can also see how thick the emitter is there.
Like the shroud. Right?
Yeah. And so here is a modern photo of this. And this one has its own little name, which is Barbican, which Barbican is like an exhibition hall in the UK, I think. And that is where this was first seen at some point, maybe in the late 90s. And so for that reason, people call this the Barbican. Again, doesn't really relate to the films at all. It's not what they would have called it when they were shooting the movies, but it's kind of the RPF name today, so to speak.
I call it the Brandon.
Well, not this one.
So is this one?
See the little hole there for the button, or for the power wire?
Right. And this was on display at the Barbican, whatever, because it is in the possession of the Lucasfilm archive.
That's
so
right.
It's really, it's like the national. It's really the National Theater. It's this big, If you guys have seen Andor, they do a decent amount of shooting at the Barbican.
I was there years ago. I didn't realize. Okay, yes, I went there.
Yeah, it's this big, brutalist kind of structure down there. There's you can see proper film theaters. I've seen Totoro there, the live production of Totoro. I've seen movies in concert there. So Batman, when they did Batman in concert, it was done at the Barbican. It's the National Theater. So it's not. I mean, I imagine they do things like this because they'll do film events and things like that, but it's not really a museum. It's more of a
I was
theater.
there in the 90s, and they were doing some kind of an Ealing festival, and I went over there, even though I was just a tourist. I don't know how I knew about this, maybe from like Time Out London, but I went over there, and they actually had made like a little bit of like merchandise. Like I think there was a book and maybe like some postcards or something, and I had never seen the idea that there was Ealing comedy merchandise. So I picked up like something with like Lavender Hill Mob and Man in the White Suit. Yeah. So I got a really cool like I think like mini poster or something of the Man in the White Suit.
It all comes back to Alec Guinness.
Yeah,
on this episode.
You're a true collector, Dave. I'm sure that many pro posters proudly hung in your house.
Right? I think it was in my college dorm room, so it did get hung. Okay, so right. Yeah.
So
is this dorm room?
Is this on display because it's a Lucasfilm archive thing, or is this with a private collection?
Yeah,
okay.
This is Lucas Archives, and another really interesting thing about this is they used it as a backup fighting lightsaber in Empire and Jedi, or they had it around. There are some shots in Empire where you do see it. I don't think they're already in Jedi, but for Jedi, they took that big square shroud and they turned down this side of it to make it look more like the other Vader sabers.
Oh, so that you wouldn't perhaps notice it quite as much.
Yeah. Because it is the same saber, but you see how here it's very distinctly square.
It was a full square.
Yeah, and now today somebody went in and ground it down to make it look more like the other ones. And you can see here, there's a hole, at some point a blade was going in there. Who knows whether it still has a motor inside of it. You would have to x-ray it or take it apart to see that.
So sorry, but go back to the first photo you showed us of the one on its side on the Barbican. No, the Barbican. The one
it was on like its side.
That?
Yeah.
Okay. This guy, but that's the same lightsaber.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just looking at it from the side because it's funny because the sort of square thing doesn't look as pronounced from here. It looks sort of more like it's part of the thing, but I mean
that's the square head, and then this is where they've taken it and rounded off. And the other thing is when you look in the end of it, you see how thick this emitter is. Yeah, which is exactly what you're seeing in these photos with David Prowse, this super thick emitter. And then jumping ahead a little, but this is showing. This bottom one here is the resin lightsaber that they made to put in Vader's hand when Luke cuts off his hand at the end of Jedi, and they molded it off this Barbican one. So it's got the same thick emitter. It's got the turn down thing here. You can see when they molded it, it still had this little piece of the grip, the T-track, which they put on the top, which is really unusual. That's not on the quote unquote Barbican today, but you do see it here. You see that right in there? Yeah. That's the little bit of T-track grip before they had turned down the square thing.
Because at some point, people thought that there was a different flash gun in play, right? Because I remember there was talk of this Highland flash gun, and I think I think the Highland people thought was the main Darth Vader thing just before anybody had found the MPP. The MPP. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Because this did confuse people. I remember back in the replica days when they were seeing the square shape and they were, they must have had two different flash guns, not realizing that something was more custom machined.
I mean, look, like a lot of props, the knowledge base around lightsabers has come up so much over the years, and probably nothing has been studied more by internet geeks, us included, than the lightsabers in the world of props. But there's so many photos out now. They keep making books on Star Wars, the 4K, just the people who have been able to see and handle things and kind of triangulate data points off of that. a lot has been learned about these things. You know, there was a time when just people didn't know. Nobody knew what an MPP micro flash was, you know? And
well, those are the hard ones to find, right? I mean, Graflexes
I was going to say the MPP. I think even back then was technically a little harder to find.
Yes.
Like not quite as like the Graflex was in like you could get in a camera store, but that the MPPs were a little rarer even when they were making this thing. So, you know,
and British. I mean, British.
Yes.
So it's like that's why they had it for Star Wars, but I guess the American geeks were not finding them as readily.
Right.
So for me, this is a really interesting one because it's like Vader first film and then reused through Empire and Jedi. I always found that to be a very neat lightsaber.
Indeed.
Really cool. I do love, I like that square thing. I just like the uniqueness of it. Like that you can really see it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's A New Hope. We're going to stop right there. Come back next week for part 2, which is Empire and Jedi. We'll talk a lot about the saber that's up in the Propstore auction. And in the meantime, follow us at Props Podcast on all social media channels. Watch this on YouTube. This is one you definitely want to watch on YouTube.
You really want to see this on YouTube because of all the photos. Yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah, Brandon has a killer archive of stuff. You know, really incredible knowledge being dropped. And write us at dreamsaremadeofpodcast@gmail.com if you have a lightsaber that you would like to hashtag private deal instead of sending into auction. And then join us again next week.
Yeah, and check out our YouTube channel at some point because I'll be visiting Propstore and I'll be looking at everything, including the saber, in person. So there'll be sort of a follow-up video as well. So keep your eye on our Stuff Dreams Are Made Of YouTube channel as well.
Maybe, Dave, we could get Gus Lopez to come back down and you could actually cut him down. Maybe Bart could do a little animated rotoscoping with the rod lightsaber and have you cut Gus down sooner than have him bid against you for the Star Wars lightsaber.
He just every one of those, he always kind of walks in and goes, "Hey guys," and then just each one,
And then we could have the little his like hooded sweatshirt just sort of become just pool.
Oh, he becomes one with the Force. Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was going to be a Force ghost. I thought
he's
just
the good collector. You're the evil one with the Vader lightsaber.
I thought his arm is just laying like on the side, like in the cantina,
with his wallet in it. He's holding up his money. This is good. We should really put this together.
With his Amazon options are just in his hand. Yeah.
Bart, call Gus and tell him he needs to come back down for this video. All right, we'll see you next week.